What's the sort of setup of the room? Like him, like is he just like smoking a cigar in front of a fire, petting a hairless cat, or like what's,
There's a heart-shaped bed in the middle of it, and he's just wearing a negligee.
Yes.
So the office is pretty much identical to how you saw it yesterday. So big desk, stoutly made in the middle of the room. Nice potted plants framing it on both sides. Big bookcase along the back wall, basically the way you're facing behind the desk, back wall. Nothing really looks any different than it did yesterday, including Whitwer, who is still sitting at his big chair at his desk with... Now he's got one hand basically like he's leaned over like this as you enter. He seems like I want to do it but not have my mouth away from the... leaned over like this as you enter and still kind of like drumming his hand on his desk. Seeming somewhat impatient, but as you come in, he's also still wearing the same outfit, to where you can only really make out mouth, bit of nose, but seems to still be covering his appearance, cloaked, and seated at his desk, and hails you as you come in. He says, "Ah, yes, the young Mr. Black. Glad you made it. I have a few changes to our agreement that I want to propose to you. I'm a businessman at nature. I understand you may not accept them all, but I don't find the terms of the existing agreement to be completely fine as it is, so I thought we'd have a little back and forth. Would you have a seat?"
And Tessian's like, certainly, of course. And he'll, I don't know, pull out the chair and sit down. And Tessian wants to see if his scroll of pedigree that he left with him is like somewhere on the desk somewhere, if that's someplace.
It is. It is on the desk.
Okay.
Along with the papers you gave him yesterday with the agreements and some assorted other stuff on the front of the desk. There's a quill and for an ink. What do you call it? The thing you put ink in. There's a name.
Inkwell.
Yeah, just got there. There's an inkwell with a quill in it and some other stuff that you'd expect on the desk. A couple of books, some other assorted papers that you don't recognize, in addition to both your pedigree and the deal that you presented him yesterday.
He'll sit down and be like, "Of course, I'd love to look this over and discuss it with you." So sit down and extend his hand to take it or whatever.
Mm-hmm. He does not offer the papers to you. He keeps them in front of him. But he's just, he's more interested in like talking to you. He's not really referring to the notes. It seems like he's gone over them well enough to the point where he's ready to just talk to you about them. So he says, "So it seems like this is beneficial to me for the most part. I mean, beneficial for both of us, really. I'm just curious, though. Even after yesterday, where you took away some of my fears, I just wonder, why now? Why? The timing's what's most peculiar to me. It's not that I'm not interested in doing business, and again, I think the terms you've brought me are very agreeable. I wonder why all of a sudden someone as important as you would be at my doorstep with a deal such as this."
And Tessian sort of looks at him a little confused. And he's like, "I'm sorry, Thorogood. I don't know that I understand. Is there a better time or a worse time to deal business? Is this..." And he kind of looks around. "Is this a bad time for you?"
Oh, it's not that the timing here is bad. I'm just curious as to why 4 years into my tenure at this city, all of a sudden Black Harbor's taken an interest in us. I have not seen an emissary from there before. So I just wonder what changed suddenly. The ruling party didn't, so I wonder why business is extending here in a place where it has not before.
And Tessian's like, well, fair question, I suppose. I don't know if you're familiar with my father, but he has slowly been trying to invest a number of, improvements into the city over the years. It's slow going. It's not the quickest endeavor. His inventions and artifice are well received by some and not by others. But as it is becoming a more accepted presence within the city, the need for them has also increased, which has led to the need for raw materials, or such as your own, to help facilitate that growth. It's not exactly something we were sure we would need to invest in at first, or even where or what, until the people itself embraced it, and it's the situation we find ourselves in now.
He kind of mulls that over for a minute, and you see him now. He like pushes the cloak back at this point. Now you've engaged in what appears to be more of a friendly conversation. You're not necessarily sure why he seemed guarded when you came in, but doing so reveals that he appears to be a upper middle-aged man, maybe like late 40s, early 50s. He's got a pretty severe, I think this is like a widow's peak, right? The Vegeta?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that kind of comes to a point, and then he's not going, it's not quite as deep, but he is, a little bit balding. But he also, you can see he has a scar underneath his left eye, and he's got quite the countenance. Just looking over his face, you can see he's weathered, experienced. He's lived life to this point. He looks all of however many years he is. This is a dude who has been around the block a few times. But you can see him now as he's talking to you. He just kind of like rubs his temple and he's thinking, and he's like, "Well, any business arrangement is a good one, I suppose. Let me change subjects for a minute. I guess I'm a little disappointed. I thought perhaps you would bring your arm candy back. What happened there? I extended the invite to everyone."
And Tessian's like, "Yes, they said they had some business to attend to. I'll admit it was a little strange, but to be honest, I only picked them up just recently over in Sagara Cove. They heard I was headed this way, and who am I to deny myself some, well, you said it yourself, some enjoyable entertainment along the way."
This almost gets like a wry smile out of Thorogood. It just, as much as you think he can, because he almost looks like he's permanently scowling even when he's not trying to, even when he seems just to be in a normal frame of mind. But like the corner of his mouth kind of tilts up a little bit, and that's the most amusement you've seen from him at any point, because you've actually been kind of watching his mouth, because it's all you could see at certain points in your conversations between today and yesterday. But it does seem like it tickles him a little bit. And he says, "Ah, yes, I understand. There's some lookers over in Sagara Cove. I'm not surprised you were able to find someone of good caliber like that."
He's like, "I was actually a little surprised myself. I believe the elven woman is from the Sowenwood. A bit of a rare bird herself, if you know what I mean."
Wow, that is something. Don't often hear about people in their area coming out and playing. That's interesting to me. Might be the most interesting bit of information you've given me yet.
And Tessian will essentially kind of, he's going to give him at least some vaguely legitimate information in some way. He's like, "Yes, my family is actually hoping that we can help engage in some increased relations with the Sowenwood. I mean, they're rather close-knit, tied-off people, and, well, I was surprised myself. I was hoping maybe she could be an inroad in that, but I guess we'll see. She isn't here today, so who knows."
Ah, increased relations, huh? And he gives you kind of like a,
I knew that was going to happen.
And Tessian kind of laughs along with it. And he's like, "Yes, it's a shame about the human woman. I believe she fancies the ladies herself, but you never know. Maybe we can make an arrangement between the three of us."
Ah, yes, yes. Now you're speaking the kind of language I like. Speaking of relations, let me ask you something. I don't want to waste your time too much with this talk. What does this look like in the future? Is this a one-off arrangement, or if things go well, are we looking at additional partnerships down the road?
And Tessian kind of, I guess, leans back in his chair and kind of mulls it over a little bit. He's kind of trying to buy some time, but and come up with a lie, and at the same time kind of figure out if there's anything real here. And he's like, "Well, I suppose it depends on what it is we need going forward. My mother and father are interested in the ore, but, I mean, this place isn't without its own charm and other resources. If relations are well, I don't see a reason why not, but I'm only speaking on their behalf, so those sort of decisions are a little above my head."
Okay. This is the point at which, Isaac, you start getting a 90% take on the conversation. Again, occasionally you miss out on a word or something from your vantage point in the room, but given the context and whatnot, you're able to pick up on pretty much everything that's being said.
I told Grell, "It sounds like they're getting pretty cozy with one another."
gonna just look at you confused and stay where I am because I don't know what that means.
No, not like. Never mind.
Now who's not getting social cues?
Karash and Lena, what are you guys doing?
Oh, gosh. Well, I don't want to risk this operation, so I am staying put in the
I'm
shed.
continuing to look around to find anything of interest in the shed without touching anything or without knocking anything over.
It's really boring.
Yep.
We're being super boring over here, but for safety reasons.
What's going through your head? What are you thinking?
I'm really concerned. I hope you're okay. I hope Isaac and Grail are okay. I wish I could have gone in. A lot of things.
How long has it been now? How long have they been in the shed without us for?
They've been in the shed without you for going on 7-8 minutes.
Oh, you're
It's not been
fine.
terribly long.
8 minutes.
I am nervous. I don't want anything bad to happen to y'all.
Okay. Karash, your cursory searches, while not trying to make too much noise or call attention to it, everything in this shed does seem legit, and you're kind of disappointed because the last couple places you've been, you found things that weren't supposed to be there, and in this case, everything does appear to check out, and maybe for once it's actually a good thing because this kind of stuff that they were peddling before, you recognize is real dangerous, and it's almost refreshing not to have to see that for once.
Fair enough.
Back upstairs, you see Whitwer at this point, like he's been, kind of like rubbing his temple and thinking about all this, and make an insight check.
Uh-oh. Not my strongest suit.
Ooh.
18.
Nice.
Clutch.
Got +1.
Oh man.
Between your two conversations, and now especially given the fact that you have a clean look at him and his face where you can see more of how he's reacting and how he's kind of just composing himself throughout this conversation, you get the sense that he is legitimately conflicted, that he seems to be taking your deal under advisement, but that he also has reservations, and he hasn't really given you a reason as to why yet, but just taking in the measure of him, it seems like he's on the fence.
As soon as Tessian kind of picks up on that, because he knows that there's a bit of a ticking clock in some regards to this whole them being nice to each other potentially being blown, he'll kind of push on that. He'll be like, Thorogood, I can't help but wonder myself, if you don't mind me asking, but I've heard you're nothing but a straight up businessman. You're a man who pursues what he wants, gets what he wants by the looks of everything around here. I can't help but feel that you're hesitant to take up this deal. By no means am I insulting your business sense, but is something wrong? Is there something I should know?
And he seems to hesitate before he answers, but eventually he kind of he's looking down as he thinks, and again, rubbing his temple, but eventually he looks up and looks right at you. And he says, well, if you must know, there are recent events in this region that have me on guard a bit. So it's not even that I question the opportunity that you've presented me, but the timing with which you've presented it. See, I have people all around the region who feed me information in a network that provides me with certain benefits, but I know what happened over in Denard. Have you heard? I would think it would be of interest to you as well, as someone notable in a city, someone who could come under fire.
Do I know what happened in Denard?
Nope.
Yeah. Then Tessian will legitimately, he's actually confused, and he's like, I haven't heard anything about Denard. I've been traveling here on the coast. What has happened?
Can I really quick? Sorry, Chris. Denard was Grail and I, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna just tell Grail Thorogood is talking about Denard, and that's just keeping her apprised.
Okay. He says, well, some real nasty business that for people like you and me. Count Zillan was a friend of mine, he was business savvy like me. I don't know that he had quite my, if you'll permit me to brag a bit, awareness, intelligence. He was a little bit too trusting. And as a result, he was killed about a week ago in his own house. So you have to understand that it's nothing against you specifically, but the idea of an opportunity presenting itself in my city suddenly, just after the death of Count Zillan, is really making me question the whole thing. Again, I mean no disrespect to you, and if I really thought it was a serious threat, I wouldn't have even entertained it in the first place. But you must understand, these are troubling times for this area.
And Tessian, who doesn't know that it was them, I mean, even if he suspects it, maybe he doesn't know. He agrees, essentially. He's like, no, you have every right to be cautious. Do we know anything about what happened there? Is somebody targeting nobles? Are you in danger yourself?
Everything I've heard from there was that he was specifically targeted. In fact, depending on whose account you believe, there might have even been a bounty on his head. How they could even allow a bounty on someone of our stature baffles me. But at least gives me no shortage of joy to know that one of the accomplices was caught.
And Tessian sort of, he's like, no, that's good. Were they able to get anything out of them?
Well, they've been trying so far. It's a more recent development. I think they've only had her in custody for the last part of a day or so. They're trying to, but she appears to be tight-lipped. I think they'll eventually be able to work that out of her, but for the time being, it's part of why I'm still a little bit on edge. We don't necessarily understand everything that happened there, but it is a bit of a relief to know that at least one person will suffer for it.
And Tessian will kind of, I mean, I guess play to his concern, and he's just like, well, if you wanted to stall or hold off on our negotiations until such a time as you were more comfortable, I would understand. I mean, increased security, those such of things. I mean, I'll be honest, I wasn't aware the region was as dangerous as it was. If my life's in danger, perhaps I should take my own leave.
That might be wise, yes. I mean, I've heard about some nasty business all along this part of the coast, and while I don't really feel all that vulnerable at any given moment, still, just because I've been cautious doesn't mean that everyone is, and if you haven't been to this point, it might be wise for you to start questioning everything that goes on around you a little bit more thoroughly. And
Tessian just sort of nods and takes his advice and wisdom into consideration. It's just sort of like, well, I guess that leaves our deal. Do you want to proceed or hold off for the time being?
He kind of thinks this one over. He sighs to himself. Eventually, he looks down at the stuff, the paperwork in front of him, and looks back up at you. And he says, it may be best if we hold off. As long as you don't mind me sending word in, say, a few days to a week, I would feel more comfortable assessing how things are going around here first before I enter in any new arrangements. Although, again, terms are quite agreeable, but I would rather be certain before I make any other moves.
And Tessian just sort of nods. He's like, the last thing me or my family want is for any of our trade caravans or goods to fall into the hands of dissidents against the crown. If the region isn't stable, then by all means, we need to be careful with how we proceed. I agree. I think perhaps some time to sort everything out would be to the benefit of everyone.
He says, well, I tell you what. You may take back your pedigree. I will keep this contract if that's agreeable to you. We can talk changes at a later date once we enter into actual business. They're all relatively minor. I don't think you'll find them to be putting you out in any way, but you may disagree. But still, we can negotiate that once we're going to finalize this. I would say the next time you come through here, let my guardsmen know and they should be able to grant you easier access. You seem to be someone who is more trustworthy. So you, and perhaps you alone, I have nothing against the people you were with last time, but I don't know them. You could perhaps skirt around some of the more seedy aspects of this and come up and see me. Perhaps we can have a meal or something, and we can talk business when this is at a more appropriate time.
And Tessian's like, I'd like that very much. And if I make it back to Black Harbor, perhaps I'll bring some of our Urian wine. I think you'd like it.
Okay.
I am telling Grail while this is happening that the deal seems to be going amicably, and that there may be easier access, that he's promised him easier access next time, and so we need to start thinking.
Okay. Karash and Lena, I need you to make a perception check, please.
Oh, crap on a crouton.
Dokie. I rolled a 12.
Okay.
Nat 20.
Whoa!
I hear the conversation going on.
Yes. Give me sight beyond sight. Lena, your thoughts kind of consume you at the moment, and you're not really noticing anything out of order. It seems relatively quiet inside the shed, and other than Karash kind of shuffling about and looking at things and smelling things, you are really just kind of wrapped up in your own thoughts. Karash, as you're kind of like fumbling with a box, and inside is another set of like shovels, and you're just like, ugh. From the outside, you hear what sounds like commotion.
I'm gonna quietly move to Lena and ask her if she sees anything out the door.
Okay, I'm going to peek outside our little crack. Do I see anything?
Okay, stealth check and a perception check, please.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, buddy.
Better her than you, I think.
I
Yeah,
rolled a 6
oh.
stealth
Okay.
and a 12 perception. I'm
It's
just
not bad. 12's not bad.
I'm just rolling 6s like constantly.
Yeah.
You're
Well-
rolling so many 6s.
This is an easier check than the one that Karash just did, since nobody was actually keeping watch, but he still managed to hear it through there. Looking outside, you hear what Karash says, and kind of more hurriedly than you should open up the door. So it's not really the slit it could be. It's a little more open as you're like, and you look outside, and you see that the guards at the gate have now been joined by other guards. And what you can make out of the conversation from here is that they have put out the fire. It has been dealt with. And now that they're on their way back, although a few of them are staying there to investigate what was happening, that some of the guards are making their way back to this area.
We're stuck in there.
Oh no.
We can leave. We can go through the sewer.
Yeah, you
I
sure
mean-
can. You sure can.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh.
well, I'm gonna. Yeah. Do you have any idea how we can get the guards to leave again, Lena?
Not that they're heading over here and we're both in the shed. No.
They're not coming into the shed though. They're probably gonna go into the building. So, the problem is those two are in there.
Definitely in there.
Wow, I got nothing. I can't even think of anything like clever to do that's not gonna blow our cover. Oh, that's stupid. That is stupid and dangerous. I like being a little impetuous, though. Oh, so dumb. Hey, Chris?
Yeah.
If I were to try to run back to where I cut the markings into the stone, roughly how long would that take me, you think?
With a run, the fact that was on the far, I mean, it was more on this side, so maybe 5 minutes? 5,
Okay.
6? Maybe a little less?
All right. So dumb. All right, I'm gonna whisper to Lena. Oh God, but that blows our. It's a no-win. That's a terrible, terrible situation. All right, I'm gonna. Lena, if I make a racket, there's a place we can hide in the sewer. But I don't know if we make a racket, they're going to follow us into they're likely to fall. The guards are likely to follow us into the sewer, which means that Isaac and Grail will have no escape. I can't think of anything else to do though, because if the guards start wandering around inside the building, it's entirely possible they're going to get caught.
Yeah. There's a chance that if we can lure them into the sewers that we can incapacitate them if they follow us. It's risky though.
That seems like a terrible idea because any quantity is going to be Oh God.
Lena, from your position at the door, you now see a fifth guard has joined the ones at the front gate, and one of them is kind of starting to bark orders, pointing in different directions.
Okay, well, I'm going to shut the door then. I'm going to say we need to decide now because they're going to start patrolling again.
All right, I'm gonna make some noise. Follow close to me, and hopefully Isaac and Grail will figure their way out. I'm gonna go full on here. I'm gonna face the door, and I'm gonna cast my thunderous, not thunderous smite, the thundery thing that makes lots of noise that everybody hears for lots of distance.
Thunderwave.
Hey, there it is. Thunder Wave. I'm gonna cast Thunder Wave at the door and then run like hell, and then and go back to where we saw the hidden door or the hidden wall, magical wall.
Okay, I'll be following close behind. Oh no.
Okay.
Yep.
So, Karash.
Yep.
As
God.
these loud rippling sound waves emanate from you, the door shatters.
Yeah, shocking.
Blown off of its pretty weak hinges. It's creaky, but weak hinges. And satisfied with the amount of noise, you and Lena immediately duck down the staircase and back into the sewers. Go ahead and make a perception check, both of you.
Okay.
Actually, I'll say everybody go ahead and make a perception check.
Yeah.
I rolled an 18.
17.
12.
22.
Damn.
Whew, nat 20.
Jesus Christ.
You hear the music being played at the burlesque all the way across town.
That's a 20, a 1, and a 20.
Yeah, so she's like me last time then.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's parse this down. Tessian, engrossed in your conversation with Whitwer, neither one of you appear to hear what's happening outside. Isaac, you do hear what sounds like some kind of bang in the front yard. Grail, you hear both that crashing noise as well as what appears to be voices from the front gate. You're not entirely sure what it is. You guys can't see. It's on the other side because you're in the back end of the manor on that side because you picked door number 1. But you do hear what sounds like voices, very muffled again, but on the outside. It sounds like shouting, and it sounds like a bunch of male voices. Karash and Lena, as you guys duck into the tunnel, you can hear that more clearly from your vantage point, especially with the door gone. And it does sound like, essentially, what was that? All right, you two go check that out. We have enough things to be dealing with.
I'm going to quickly turn to Isaac and whisper harshly, did you hear that? Sounds like voices. There's something going on outside.
I can only assume it has something to do with Karash. Maybe he made too much noise checking those barrels.
I don't know. It didn't sound like that to me. It sounded like something else.
No, I'm sure he's caught, is what I'm thinking. This complicates things, Grail.
We're stuck in here.
We thought we would... there's that. We thought we were going to have another chance. We may not now. When that door opens and Tessian comes out, we're going to have a decision to make.
I know. Oh.
Sorry, guys.
I have no idea what to do.
But we can only assume the guards are back. Maybe some have returned, or somewhere in the house and went outside. I'm not sure.
God. We have to get out of here.
I don't think we can leave. Not yet. This might be our only chance.
Okay, I'll follow your lead. What should we do?
Let's watch and wait.
Okay.
When Tessian comes out, maybe that will give some clarity of what to do next.
So, listening back on the conversation, you essentially hear Tessian and Whitwer wrapping things up. Small talk nature, but still, essentially reaffirming the terms they just talked about, having him come through again the next time he's in the area, or if not, he'll send word to Tessian somehow. Whitwer thinks that'll be a Black Harbor, but we won't talk about why that's a bad idea for the time being. But essentially, basically saying like, well, last time my guards had to escort you out, but you're free to leave whenever you're ready, as long as you find everything to be in accordance with how you'd like this to go.
And Tessian's like, no, I appreciate it. Although, I will say I wouldn't mind an escort if you couldn't spare it. If everything you've said is true, I must admit I'm a little concerned about those companions of mine.
Well, I suppose that can be arranged. My guardsman came and told me that there was some kind of... No, that wouldn't have worked. What am I saying? The timeline doesn't work that way. Let me retcon myself. He says, I can reach some of my guardsmen and have them escort you back out, and they could even go with you through the city if need be. There are enough of them to go around. He doesn't know about the fire.
Yeah. And Tessian kind of thinks about it, and then he kind of plays it off like he's, like he's trying to be like, he's too cool. No, he's like, no, you know what? Never mind, Thorogood. You have been too kind to me already. You've done enough. If it's going to come to that, well, we've all got to learn to protect ourselves, don't we? I'm no pushover myself. I appreciate your time, and I hope we can do business in the future.
And he says, well, the same to you, and perhaps, having gotten the measure of you, I may have a business deal for you the next time as well. It's something I can't really go into detail about. It's a bit complicated, but needless to say that if you are who you say you are, and you certainly appear to be, then there may be other opportunities that even I haven't considered to this point. So I'll be in touch.
And Tessian kind of gives him a slight bow and is like, I can't wait. And he'll sort of take his leave, I guess.
Okay.
I feel like this is like the Telltale game. I have like the fucking timer going down.
Right, X and B.
Yeah.
So Tessian now emerges from the door of his office, and Grail, you can kind of see him since you're keeping post at your own door.
Mm-hmm.
You see Tessian walk out into the hallway. There are no guards there waiting for him.
Well,
there don't appear to have been any guards in the room with him as he comes out.
As soon as they got up, though, I think I'm gonna do this.
Oh my God.
I'm going to. So I can hear him getting up. I know he's gonna come out of the door. I'm gonna go out of our door and start making my way over to that door.
Okay,
and I'm gonna tell Grail, I think this is our only chance. And I draw my guns, and I guess I make eye contact. So I'm still on the side, so I'm hoping I make eye contact with Tessian as he's coming out.
Okay. So Tessian, a little bit to your surprise, even though you knew this was a possibility, as you walk out of the door, you can quickly see that there's an Isaac in front of you, crouched to the side, so that like you can't. There's not a chance of Whitwer having seen him as you open the door, but nonetheless, he's right there as you leave the office.
I mean, how noticeable? Like, would the guards have noticed him that are out there? Because weren't there guards on the outside of his office?
No guards on the outside of the office. They left you to their business, and they went back downstairs before those two even got to the side room.
And just to clarify, because there's no guards, I would be walking towards him, but trying to go so that if the door's open, Thorogood can't just see me straight out. This person behind Tessian. Does that make sense?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was saying. As Tessian opens the door, it's not a line where Whitwer could see down the hallway far enough. Because I figured you'd want to be out of line of sight.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you would just be going in if you wanted to be seen. So I figured that was the goal. Yeah.
So far, yeah.
So yes, as you come out, no guards in the hallway as far as you can tell. There is an Isaac, and you can also kind of see Grail crouched behind this door to your right. But you can see the two of them there, and they're both kind of looking at you with what appears to be wonderment and a bit of uncertainty.
So it's just Isaac standing in the hallway.
Yeah.
Making my way toward you, too, with my guns fucking drawn.
I'll be honest, I think Tessian's kind of interested to see what you're going to do here. He actually just kind of keeps walking casually, like it's just another day, and he's actually just going to kind of walk past you, like he's on his way out, and like you're just another meeting. It's just the next person in line, to meet with Thorogood. And he'll just give you a nod as he walks by. Sort of just be like, Dryden, and then just keep walking.
Nod is all I need, man. So I'm assuming you have not closed. Well, I would not, how do I say, like, not let you, but like, I would have tried to go so that the whole point is you open the door. I want to go in with the door still open.
Either way, he'll walk right past you.
Okay.
Just like you're the next meeting. I mean, how's Tessian supposed to know who you are?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna kick the door open.
Okay.
I'm gonna say my gun is drawn at Whitwer, right at the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Whitwer Thorogood, I need you to come with me. And I have my gun drawn on him.
Grail, what are you doing?
I am keeping an eye out for anyone coming down the hallway. Now that Tessian has left, I'm just going to be like basically readying a spell towards the hallway.
Okay, which one?
Sleep.
Figured, but wanted to make sure. Okay, so you have the sleep spell as like a readied action.